Hey everyone, and welcome to another SkillCapped guide. I'm Dr. Zora, and today we're going to be reviewing pro strategies that you should be using to grab easy wins on the new updated split map. In patch 2.01, Riot implemented several changes to split that has drastically affected the way the map should be played. In this video, we'll take a look at what those changes are and how you can take advantage of them to improve your gameplay on the map. With these strategies, you'll be able to easily win rounds on both attack and defense. If split was a map you were originally fearful of playing in, you won't be by the end of this video. And if you want to take your game to the next level and play like the pros, then go to skillcapped.com to unlock our hyper improvement system that will teach you everything you need to blast through the rankings in Valorant. The link will be provided in the description below. And before we get into the content, we have our question of the day for you all. What is your favorite change on split? The changes made to split were intended to reduce 50-50 checks and open up specific areas of the map to create more space, particularly for the attackers. But were they able to achieve this? Let us know what you think in the comments down below. Split is a map that practically all the agents are able to fulfill a role in, but there are definitely some that outshine others. So let's talk about the best agents to play on split and why they're so good on this map. Flashes are incredibly powerful on this map and are an absolute must to have a powerful defense and attack. In particular, Breach has really shined on this map as his abilities really work well with the map's design. Not only does Breach have multiple areas that he can sneakily throw a flash and peek out of, but his flashpoint is able to cover a large part of the A and B choke points, and his ultimate is able to cover a large part of both the A and B spike sites, allowing for an extremely powerful site hit and retakes. Omen is our next agent we highly recommend playing on split, and the reason being is that the map has several areas that he can use paranoia to completely push defenders away from a choke point and thus creating space for an attack, followed by his smokes and ultimate that allows him to really assist with not only executing a sight but faking out enemies regardless of his position. You'll find that Omen's versatility really shines on a map like split. While Sage has gotten quite a few nerfs as of late, her kit is still incredibly powerful on split. In particular, Sage's barrier orb and slow orbs are insanely useful for holding down the middle choke point, which is arguably the most important area of the map. Her ultimate has always been useful, but with how well Sage's abilities are able to hold down middle, having her on your squad is very beneficial. Lastly, we have Killjoy. Killjoy is an agent that has really grown and become more popular since her release. Her abilities work incredibly well on defense in both the A and B sites, and especially now that certain choke points have been opened up, having her to slow down attacker pushes has become a lot more important to prevent them from gaining too much map control. With the agents out of the way, let's move on to the biggest area that's been affected, and that is attacking the A site. What has been a huge improvement for attackers on this site is the doorway to A tower has become much wider. This makes it much easier for attackers to push through onto this area, and because of that, you should definitely try to take control of it when you can. With tower control, not only can you split push and overwhelm the players that are on A site, but you also have players positioned to cut off rotations and decrease the chances of defenders retaking. One way to easily get control of ramp and get your way up to towers is by flashing ramp at the start of the round and challenging anyone that tries to peek there. From there, you have the option of either challenging the players on site that are watching A short, and then if the coast is clear, bring up to 3 players up ramp to get into A towers. Once you make it up to A ramp, clear any players that are nearby and use abilities such as flashes and smokes to charge into tower and clear any enemies that are there. Once that is done, you can have a player smoke out screens and then push out with the remaining players that are on A short and hit the site from short and rafters. This split push is incredibly powerful with the new changes and has now become much easier to execute now that A towers has been opened up, so make sure that you take advantage of that and you'll find yourself having much more success at taking A. This is the main way you want to take the A site, as a straight push through A short is very risky as the choke point is incredibly narrow and one ability such as Brimstone's Molotov or Smoke could completely end your team's push. Moving on to the B site, the biggest change that has been added is Garage has become much wider. Again, this really creates a ton of space for attackers to push through this one choke point. Originally, this area was very narrow and risky for attackers to go through, and as such, players tended to stay away from it. Attackers now have much more space to work with, particularly with going for an initial pick here, which is why we highly suggest going for widespread peeks here that will surely overwhelm the enemy. Another unique addition to Garage is that this box has been added to the left side. This position really allows you to play off angles and further clear out the back of B site. For example, you can TP onto this side with Omen and then go for a surprise peek from the left when the enemy is surely holding the right. If you're able to make it to the box for free, an agent such as Raze can throw her boombot to the right side where defenders tend to play, or throw a grenade at that area which will surely do chip damage to the defender playing on that site. Once you get your pick or clear out the back of B, you're ready to go for an execute, and this has remained pretty standard with the old split. You're going to want to smoke off heaven and spawn, which will greatly isolate players that are on site. From there, if you have Phoenix or Sage, wall off the right side of B, and then you're ready to execute onto the site and overwhelm any enemies that are there. For safety, you're going to usually want to plant at this default position behind the box. Particularly if enemies have rotated quickly and are getting near the site, this position allows you to get the spike down without being exposed. If this is the case, you're going to want to stay relatively close to the site afterwards in order to protect the spike. Now, the new update has also added the ability to plant the spike further to the left, where players in Garage are able to spot any defenders trying to defuse and can appropriately guard it. If the coast is clear, this is definitely the better place to plant. However, it does really expose you to someone who surprise pushes from spawn, or if anyone pushes from heaven, you're going to be a sitting duck. This is a high risk, high reward plant, so make sure the enemies are far enough away that you can get this plant down and then run into safety for the post plant battle. With the standard set attacks out of the way, we want to put your attention towards middle. We mentioned earlier how important middle control is, as it allows for even stronger hits to be made on both the A and B sites. Heaven and male hasn't really gone through any significant changes, so the way to hit that area has remained the same. If you want to take control of this area, simply throw a smoke onto vents, and from there throw in flashes to push through male and throw a follow-up flash to get your way up heaven and down into the site for a heavy heaven hit onto B. If you're able to get control of heaven with a few players and still have control of garage, you could do a split push as well, where half the players are going through garage with the execute we just mentioned and half the team is pushing through heaven to B. This will really pinch the defenders on B, making for an even easier hit onto the site. The only small adjustment to be made here with this execute is that you'll want to smoke out the stairs instead of heaven so that your teammates have more room to work with. Now, with that being said, the big change they have made to middle is vents. The doorway to vents has gone much wider, and they've created a sloped wall on the left side, thus removing a 50-50 angle to check when entering vents. This makes vents a much more viable option to take control of to perform a split push or rotation onto the A site as well. When working through middle, we recommend trying to take control of male and heaven first. However, if that is deemed ineffective or you hear that you've baited out rotations out of A, then going into vents would be a great option. The execute would still be similar to the A tower take that we just mentioned. However, you do want to be cautious of defenders that may have pushed through A short or A ramps while your team was taking control of middle. With the main attacker points out of the way, we're going to move on to how to play defense with these new changes to split. With the new map, we still recommend having 2 players on A, 2 players middle, and 1 player on the B site. This setup ensures that you are in an optimal position to defend whichever site the attackers decide to push. With the new changes, mid has become even more valuable for attackers to take, particularly because vents has become much more accessible and vulnerable. This makes it easier for attackers to take this area, which is why we suggest having 2 players hovering around mid, preferably 1 in vents and 1 up at heaven. This allows for a good crossfire if the enemies were to push through mid. Along with that, because A tower has opened up and attackers are more likely to push through that choke point, you want to have someone in vents that can rotate quickly to defend that area. Because of this, 1 player vents and 1 player heaven is our main recommended setup. Another setup you can also do is having 2 players around male and heaven if you found that the attackers are constantly hitting mid to B. This is still a good setup to have despite the new changes. However, it's important to use this based on the attacker's habits. This leaves A tower much more vulnerable as the rotations will be slower, but it also opens up the attackers to doing the vent to A push that we just mentioned. So make sure when choosing this setup that you thoroughly analyze the situation before using it. Going into B, the back of site is still going to be the best position to defend it. However, they've now added this double stacked box onto the site, and this can become very useful, particularly during a soul heaven push from the attackers. If you get a call that the attackers are pushing heaven, you'll want to carefully listen to sound and see if anyone is going through garage. If not, hiding behind this newly added double stacked box can be a great way to surprise the attackers and get a couple of picks. There is no escape route from this position, however it tends to go unchecked since it's a new spot, and therefore you'll be able to get some easy kills here. Onto the A site, with A tower being highly contested now, you definitely want to have a player here, and again a player in vents that's ready to rotate. The second A defender should play in the back of site or elbow to watch for the A short push. However, it's again important to read the situation and if a tower is consistently pushed through, it'd be beneficial to actually leave the site open and have one person playing in towers either close in ropes or behind boxes, and another player up in rafters who can defend a short but can also switch over to defend a tower if necessary to defend this highly contested area. Alright, so what is your favorite change that Riot has made to Split? Let us know in the comment section below, and while you're down there, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get more premium guides just like this one with one goal in mind: helping you become a better player. We here at SkillCapped want to thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next. My name is Dr. Zora, and good luck out there.